Hello, everybody. How are you guys doing? Right? We're doing all right. I'm doing all right. Are you doing all right? I guess we all doing all right, right? I just had to get on here real quick, right? I got a message for everybody. Um, so y'all ain't gonna see me look at this phone too much because I'm about to start driving. I gotta go get me a coffee. But anyways, I got a message for some of my people. When you are, I'm trying to figure out how to start this off, right? When you are in a vulnerable space, right, and you are in need, and you are around somebody, right? I don't care if it's a roommate, I don't care if it's family members, I don't care if it's a spouse, I don't care if a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, or wife, right? When people show you who they are, believe them, right? A lot of times, I thought my phone had cut off. A lot of times, right, when people come into your life and God is about to bless you and God have a big blessing for you, just waiting for you to figure out, everybody, right? Because it's a difference from a blessing waiting for you and you have to get on a certain journey, right, to receive that blessing, versus the blessing waiting for you to rid yourself of the vultures around you, right? I do believe that God sometimes will hold that blessing up when you have snakes in your grass. And what I mean by that, right? Because you got to break it down these days, because everything sounds so connected to something and somebody, right? And it just I don't know. I just don't like it, right? People try to say you're copying and you're da. They be the ones copying off of you. Honey, child, look. Anyways, so, oh God. See, I done got off a topic. Anywho's, when people show you who they are, believe them, right? When God is showing you people around you, right? Sometimes God will not allow your blessing to come in because you got it in the fifth around you, right? And it's not that God is holding up that blessing out of punishment. I believe that sometimes God genuinely don't want you sharing your blessings with those people around you, right? Whether it be spouse, a lot of y'all are connected to boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wives that y'all not supposed to be in relationships with, right? And God got something so great and grand for you, but he do not want you sharing it with that witch you laying next to, with that warlock you. Y'all gonna have to work with me because I'm driving, or with that warlock that you're laying next to. And sometimes it goes all the way down to your family members, and I mean all the way down to your kids, right? The itsy bitsy spider. I don't know where that came from, but them itsy bitsy kids that you pushed out, that you're saying, but my baby, right? My kids would never, right? A lot of us are, and it ain't even that. Sometimes certain people, right? I gotta watch what I say on this here, because there's always somebody sitting in the back, little lip liner, waiting to report you, waiting to say, I said that first. Let me go. Oh, let me go to work. I'm gonna go step out and copy that and say I did it first. Oh no, Jesus, she said it. Y'all, they be out here on it. Woo, Jesus. Anyways, anytime you have people around you and they are supposed to be your friend, your family member, your lover and friend, tell me again, oh baby, right? Anytime you got people like that around you and they supposed to be these close encounters, right? Anytime they know that people are an issue for you and they're going out their way to connect to those people. It's a difference than being like a family member to somebody, and then they a family member, and y'all all family, and so it's like, I don't want to get in the middle of that because I ain't got nothing to do with that, right? It's a difference. And all the way down to a person going out their way to connect to your enemies, connect to people who hurt and harmed you, right? And we don't want to really give them that privilege of saying that they're our enemies, because that is a strong word. We are giving them too much, what's the word? We are giving them too much energy, right? We're giving them too much. Lord, what's the word? I gotta get out of nature, child. I had to go somewhere yesterday. I was talking to the lady. I just sit there and I looked at her and I said, ma'am, I've been in the house. My words is not coming out right, okay? She was like, oh my God, I understand. Hold on, y'all.
Thank you for... What can I get for you?
Y'all, you got to make sure you 100 with yourself, because like the insecurity be ringing out of people's pores. You understand me? Like when you are secure within self, right? I think I want to go over here. You can't do business and you can't conduct yourself properly when you got negative energy in the atmosphere. And so I came to get me a coffee. Right, I'm doing my little video. I came to get me a coffee, right? And there's some white women inside of here, right? And as y'all can see, I got blonde hair on, but I'm cute as fuck. You understand? And so, when people are insecure with themselves, right? And they see me come up here with my white guy friend, right? Because I have friends from all over, right? Mexican, white, black, Puerto Rican, right? Just from all walks of life, right? Arab, all of them, right? And it's not no type of sexual, sensual, nothing, right? People who genuinely rock with me. And, you know, people like my intellect. People like the fact that they done been depressed about to jump off of buildings, right? And so on. And I done made them see the light. Like, what are you doing here, right? You ain't never going through that much stuff. What's going on, right? And I've always been real funny, right? And so, you know, when you help people throughout their lives, when they're facing demons and battles and have to fight their fight to get on their path, right? People genuinely F with you heavy. And a couple times I brought people down here to this coffee shop, and so when they see me with all these different people from different walks of life, right? Let's go to the coffee shop. Let's go sit in there and talk. And let's see what's on your minds. You all right? Right? Something going on up there. It's shaking. But when I'm very discreet in what I talk about around who, what, when, or why, right? And so these people see that I get on with all type of people from different walks of life, right? And it's these white little girls that's inside of here. And when they see me, they very intimidated by me, right? Instead of gaining confidence within themselves. And so what they do is they side eye and look at each other and eye fuck each other. Like, girl, you see what I see? Girl, you see what I see? Girl, no, girl, she got in blonde hair. She thinks she's all of that. But they do it with one another. All this, right? Oh, girl, look at her. All that, right? I know y'all know what I'm talking about, right? When you walk inside of somewhere and all of a sudden they like, Becky, without saying it, Becky, my God, Becky, look at her, Becky, right? It's just a look. Like they be doing all that when you hit the dog, girl, because I know I'm doing the thing. If I got you doing that, girl, look at her. Right? You know you that thing, right? When you got them out of, right? They be handing your drink out the, And here you go. You have a nice one. But see, they weren't expecting for me to call them out. And so when I'm sitting there, I go here all the time. And they be fine. But when they see me with my people, they feel some type of way. They don't understand if that person was trying to talk to them, right? They try to give off these vibes like, yo, dude tried to talk to me. They're not my man. They can talk to whoever they want to talk to, right? Girl, because that's her. Oh, my God, because that's her, right? She don't know. She don't know that we are talking to her. Man, like what? Y'all should see it, y'all. I be just where you flip the camera like, girl. Anyways, let me keep going, y'all, because I done got all the way off a subject topic and all of it. I had to come sit somewhere else because they energy projecting is disgusting. And the fact that, like, they wear the same thing every day. Like, I know you at work, but I feel like when you present yourself, it's this girl who do McDonald's videos. The truth. She keep herself up. She do her hair, right? And she always tell her story about why, how, and whatever. It ain't about what you do, it's how you do, right? It ain't about where you work at. If you want to get yourself ready, why do you got to dress down and dirty, right? Because other people are insecure with themselves. And maybe that's the subject that God wanted me to get on, right? Because I was led down here. And I really didn't even want to come down here. But I said, forget it. I need to get out the house for a little bit. Get a whiff of that fresh air, right? But anyways, let me roll this other window down so it can come on through. But I was guided down here. And I kept saying, no, I'm going to go this way. But I kept driving this way. And when they did that, now we on here. And so it's like, I was talking about something else, but now we on here, right? When people are insecure with themselves, right? A lot of times, instead of them just like, damn, let me do better, right? Or saying, oh, you look nice today, y'all, and my hair done flew. Let me take these glasses off, honey, so y'all can see this. Ladies, and the bass, bitch, yeah. Right? Anyways, this bump is half khaki, half yaki, bitch. Don't worry about it, okay? Anyways, y'all be cracking myself up. Look, right? Because the way people be doing what they be doing, you better stay in that energy. They always say don't mess with a person that you always see smiling or you always see happy, right? Because a lot of them people be right, about to whoop your ass, bitch. Stay back there. Becky, I ain't got time for it. Stay back there. Girl, look at her. Out the window. Right now to the left. Ooh. Ooh. Somebody stop. Look at her. She's right there to the left. Ooh. Whoa. Whoa. Okay. Okay, y'all, I'm done. She has blonde hair. Oh my God, she's black. She's black. Oh my God, girl, she got out the car. Her ass is huge. Becky. Yo, oh, you should see them. The uncomfortable. They be ready to get behind stuff. They be fat bitches behind poles, trying to squeeze, trying to look at you. Y'all, I done seen it all. Right? I done seen it all. Girl, I seen y'all. Let me tell y'all something. One day I was at work, right? And I was working all the way out the way. And I go into work, and it was this lady. I didn't know that she was a gay woman, right? I ain't got nothing against them. My auntie's gay, right? Family members, all that, right? I done hang out. I went to gay bars, all of it, right? Nothing against it. Love them, right? Love him and or her, right? We're not going to separate them. So, I went inside. I was working at this job, and I didn't know this woman was gay. But my intuition, right? It's something about that intuition. When God give you the insight, you can see all things. And so I'm working, right? And I went to do something, and I see this big fat woman. She had a short haircut, right? She like sucked in. Y'all see this pole right here? Y'all see how skinny that pole is right here in front of you? Right there. Right? She she was like standing behind it and like peeking over at me. Everybody in there felt so uncomfortable. The level of weirdness that was happening, right? It was so strange that the dude had kind of like inched over to me. Everybody felt so uncomfortable, right? You know, people feel uncomfortable when a person make them feel so uncomfortable that they start being weird, right? And so the dude kind of like inching over to me, right? Because we was working on windows. I was working at this window place. And I'm scraping the little sides, right? He was farther over, but I look up, right? He caught her before I seen her. And so I'm like, you know, somebody doing something weird, but you like, why is they being weird? Like, me and this person always talk shit, but she was so weird, and she was like a higher top person, like manager, something, whatever, right? And she had made him feel so uncomfortable, and everybody else on that line, that everybody kept like looking down the line at me like, bitch, you see her, right? And I'm like, why is everybody looking like this, right? Well, I'm looking up, I'm scraping the window, I turn around and hand it to the next person, and he looking at me like, bitch, look up, right? But I wasn't catching on. Then I turn around and grab the rest of the stuff and say something. Everybody down the line looking at me like, you know what I'm saying? Like, bitch, look at this, right? Oh, y'all, it was so strange, y'all. When I finally looked up and caught this woman, this fat bitch standing behind that pole, squeezed in like this, looking over at me like, bitch. It was so bad. It was so bad. Y'all, I feel so uncomfortable. Have you ever seen a black person turn purple? Dude, I was embarrassed. I'm like, what the fuck, yo? And what's crazy is I wasn't wearing blonde hair. I was dressed normal, black hair, just my little video self, minding my business, right? But I still look like I washed my ass for the day. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people out here going into these places and they are not washing their buckets. They are not washing their condoonchas, right? And so, y'all, all I see is spikes, because she had like a little spiky look at the top of her head, and her fat ass squeezed in between that pole, standing behind it like Inspector Gadget. Right? Y'all, oh my God. Y'all, it was so embarrassing, and she did not stop. It's a difference when you get caught and it's like, let me act like I ain't do it, right? No, she kept doing it. And she went from that pole to another pole, like, in that bitch swirling around. Y'all cannot make this shit up. Y'all, in that bitch, you look this way, she up there, over here, over there, right? And at that particular job, we had like an overhead part in there, right, where the bigger people would go into. I guess what they call like a raised trailer type of thing. It had stairs to it, and there was offices and stuff up there. At two jobs, excuse me, I just burped. But at two different jobs that I work at, they both had like raised trailers. So it wasn't my last job. All right, try to wait for this woman to shut her door to get back on here. But it wasn't my last job. I feel like something in my eye. Oh, I guess it's not. But it wasn't my last job that I was working at, girl, because I can't wait to get on their ass. But it was like a couple jobs before that, right? The lady had went, right, because everybody had caught her. She didn't even care that people had caught her and that I had caught her, right? And so she went to the top part and started standing up there watching, right? She was trying to act like she was just overlooking everybody. Y'all, the weirdest shit. I end up cutting my finger, right? That's what you call stone cold evil eye. Like, that shit is for real. Evil eye is real. And I remember I went to lean down to tie my shoe up, yeah, because we worked with razors. I had took my gloves off, and I went to lean down to tie my shoe up. I stuck the razor, because we had to use razors to scrape the sides of the window to get the excess coat type of stuff off your plastic, whatever, to get it off the window when it came down the assembly line. And once I scraped it off, it was time for break. I remember sitting my razor down, and when I set my razor down, because it was like this little ledge thing, we had to sit the razor up there on the ledge, and I took off my gloves, but I went to lean down and tie my shoe. When I went to lean down and tie my shoe, the razor came straight down on my finger, y'all, while I'm tying my shoe. Leaned down, tying my shoe, like I'm literally, like, you know, you hunch down. I leaned over, but like, you leaned all the way down to tie your shoe up. I leaned down to tie my shoe up. I had on steel toes. And y'all, when I leaned down to tie my shoe up, y'all, the razor came straight down on my finger and slit my finger open. I still got the mark on my finger right now. I don't even know if y'all can see it. You see it? I know y'all can see it right there. Going across there. Shiny. I had to get so many stitches in my finger. my finger was open, right? And what's so crazy is the guy that was standing next to me, he would always walk past and talk shit and whatever, right? He was real cool. But when I split my finger, y'all, I was in a state of shock because I couldn't believe that razor just fell on my hand. Y'all, my finger was split. It was hanging over like a split hot dog all the way down to the bone. And it had split open. And I was just standing there. When I stood up, right? I stopped tying my shoe and I stood up and looked at it like, what the fuck, right? I was in shock. And he had grabbed a towel and grabbed my hand real hard. Like, he ran up to me. He seen it, whatever. You know, staring, watching, talking shit, whatever. And he seen it. And I stood up. And as soon as I looked at it, he hurt and grabbed a towel from out of the bucket and grabbed it and squeezed my hand, right? He had ran me to the office. Y'all, I was so mad I missed my break. I said, I got to take my break. This is too much, right? Y'all, my finger was split straight the fuck open. And he was like, oh, my God, I can see your bone. She had put something, because she had to be involved in it, right? Because she was only like, they had other supervisors, but she was like the head over the supervisors, basically, right? And it was third shift I was working. And when we went back to an office, it was me, him. It was me, him, and her. And it was somebody else. It was another real cool guy. And she was like, he was like, I think that you should go to the hospital because I could see your bone, right? The other dude had came and stepped in. He was like, you need to go to the hospital, right? And I'm like, all right, come on, right? She didn't want me going to the hospital. And they was like, no, she needs to go to the hospital. That needs stitches, right? That needs stitches, right? And she was like, no, you can put like gunpowder in it. So they had something that looked like gunpowder or something. You can put that in there and whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop, right? I got a very high pain tolerance, right? Because they looking at me like, how was she even? Like, she ain't saying nothing. I'm sitting there like swinging my legs back and forth, like sitting down. And I'm swinging my legs back and forth, talking to them. Y'all, my finger hanging dead off my hand, right? And he like, what the fuck, right? How the hell did you even sit there talking to us? I'll be on the floor, right? And he was showing me one of his wounds, his work wounds, right? Because that happened to me before. You know, here they come. That happened to me. And this, that, and the other. They got me here, right? And another person, they got him there, right? Y'all, the stories they be telling. And they glued his finger onto the window and it went out to a customer. Y'all, stop playing, right? The stories that they was telling. And I'm like, just sitting there like, yeah, because what we gonna do we just need to wrap it, right? Because I'm still, you gotta understand that when something like that happened, I didn't feel the pain, right? None of this stuff. I felt like a tingling sensation once she put the gunpowder in there. But I was in such a state of shock still that I did not feel anything, right? It took me all the way until I went home to start feeling something. I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, no, this starting to hurt. I ain't gonna lay down like this. Like y'all, it was separated. Bad. And bleeding bad, right? I think I might even still got pictures in my phone somewhere. This was many years ago, so you know you switch phones, but I think that like sometimes I didn't have an iPhone then. But when you but when you switch sometimes like your Gmails and all that type of stuff, some of your pictures come back from some of your old phones. Once you get an iPhone, it'll go from iPhone to iPhone, right? Your iCloud to iCloud, all your pictures and stuff. But I went on ahead and kept working, right? Because it didn't bother me. She was just kept saying, like, I don't think so. I don't think she need to go, right? And I didn't think nothing of it. Like I said, I was still in a state of shock. So when I got home, I'm like, I don't think I should lay down and this is open like this, right? This is way too open. And so when I went to the hospital, the guy was looking like, what happened? And I told him, I said, I was at work. The razor came down on my finger and whoop, whoop, whoop. And he like, did you... like, where's the supervisor at? Because normally somebody would come. I said, no, I worked the rest of the night. He was like, how many hours later was it? And I'm like, it was about 4 hours because I was only like halfway through the day, right? I was going on my second break or something like that, right? Because you got the second break and then you got the last break. So I said, yeah, I was going on like the big break, which is the lunch break, right? So I was only like halfway through the day. Y'all, for some reason, my phone is delayed. So I don't know. Anyways, I just turned off the Wi-Fi. I thought maybe the Wi-Fi search was trying to do something weird, but I don't even care. So anyways, he like, they should have took you into the hospital, whoop, whoop, whoop. And he said something about workman's comp and all this, and I don't know nothing about no workman's comp. I still don't, right? I didn't know nothing about it. And so he was like, he was like, it was a guy who came in there like just to fill out the paperwork and stuff like that. And he like, no, they should have took you into the hospital. Like, there's no reason why they shouldn't have took, like, that looks bad, right? And he was like, there's no reason why they shouldn't have took you to the hospital. That's not even making sense, right? He like, was it like this? I'm like, this was like this, right? I said, it actually looked a little bit better because I done cleaned it out. And he like, this shit is crazy. Like, my finger was split cold. My finger was basically hanging off, right? And the doctor came in there and he looking like, what the fuck? What happened? And I got to explain it all over again, right? And he like, we going to have to stitch. You going to get stitches. We got to sew this back on. And he like, in 2 to 3 days, if this not looking better, you got to come back, right? That's how bad it was. And so he stitched it and stuff like that. They gave my paperwork, and the guy had walked me down to somewhere else. And he like, you going to have to come in here. We going to take a drug test and all this stuff, right? So I'm like, all right, cool, right? I don't have nothing in my system. I ain't do no drugs, right? So I think that she was trying to bring some level of confusion, right? And so, like I said, I'm still in shock, all this stuff. So I go in there, I take my drug test, I'm cool. And so they send it into the workplace. So one of the head people, a head guy called me, and he like, okay, what happened? What's going on? We didn't get any paperwork about your hand or nothing like that. I'm like, well, I told him everything that happened, went over everything with him. When I explained to him what happened, right, I'm still not thinking nothing about her weird behavior, none of this stuff. He like, all right, come in. We got your drug test and everything like that. Everything clear. We gonna go over everything with you with the workman's comp and all this stuff, right? I don't know what workman's comp is. So when I went in, y'all had a hair appointment that day, a nail appointment that day, everything, because I was off that day. And I said, well, you gonna have to wait till my hair appointment, my nail appointment, right? He like, that's fine. Just make sure you come in before the end of the day, right? And come talk to me. So I went in there and I talked to him, and he going over all the paperwork with me. I'm like, but what is this though? He like, with the workman's comp, but we got to do this and that because she didn't do this and that, right? But I'm like, but I don't want none of that, right? I'm coming to work tonight, right? And he like, looking at me like, what? I said, I don't want none of that, right? I'm coming to work tonight. I want to come into work, right? He like, but what? Okay, go back to again what's going on, right? Because he like, he trying to put together the hospital, why I wasn't took to the hospital, why I went to the hospital after. He not getting none of this, right? And why paperwork was not filed showing that these incident happened, right? You know, anytime something happened at work, they supposed to report it. She didn't report it. She didn't report it. She didn't say anything about it, right? And so now it's a bigger thing. Now they got to call the people in off the floor about what happened, what was going on, who was all involved. And the 2 guys went in there and told them, right? I'm thinking they're going to be brown nosing, right? I'm like, bitch, you try me. It's going to be a problem, right? Because I've always been that person. Don't fucking play with me. And I'm always paranoid on that level because I done been in too many places that I've been traumatized where people brown nose, right? To get a position to da-da-da-da-da. But thank God, the 2 dudes wasn't on that, right? They like, we don't give a damn, right? She can write us up all they want to, right? They went into some other shit about her ass. They was happy the incident happened. And so they told them, they went as far as telling them about her. I didn't even tell them nothing about her weird behavior, nothing. They went as far as telling about her weird behavior. They went as far as telling about the incidents leading up to that and about all the way what happened to it and about her behavior in there, right? You got to remember that I was in a state of shock. So whatever she said, it went, right? I'm not thinking about no workman's comp. I don't know none of this. I'm innocent in everything. And all I want to know is my finger, right? Do we need to put a Band-Aid on it? How does this work at work, right? How am I going to keep working? How y'all going to compromise? And for me at work, right? Do I need an easier spot for a couple days? Something like that, right? That's where my mind is. And so they went in there and told on her, right? I didn't tell on the bitch. I don't know nothing about nothing. He said, is you sure? Because we can do. I said, I don't want none of that. I'm showing up to work because I work 3rd shift. So that night coming into that, right, I was off. This was like a day or 2 prior, right? So I'm kind of skipping all over. The incident was like a prior 2 days before that when got my finger sewed up and all this. He didn't contact me in the meantime, between time, right? We was in contact. And then he called me and was like, okay, you got to come in, right? And I was off that night coming into that day, but I had to go to work that following night. That would have been my day to go to work, right? And so he like, but you can get the workman's comp and all that. I said, but I don't want the workman's comp. I'm coming in tonight, right? He was in such shock, like, what? Right? No, I'll be here tonight, right? Just put me on something a little bit lighter. I can't lift up the heavy window. We know that, right? Put me on where I can do the screen part, right? I can do that all day, right? It's only one finger, right? He looking at me like, okay. Like, he was so mad, right? Not at me, but I can see his frustration. Like, bitch, you could have got us in trouble, right? Thank God she wasn't on that. They was able to not get in trouble because of me, basically. I was like, no, I don't file none of the paperwork. I don't want none of that. And they like, but why did you take the drug screen? I said, because that's what the man at the hospital told me I had to do, right? Because it happened at work. I explained it. When I went to the hospital, you know, you go to the hospital, they want you to explain what happened. I told them, and so the man told me that's what I had to do. That's what I do. I don't know nothing about that stuff. And I said, I don't want no workman's comp. I'm coming in. I'm not sitting at home, right? No, I can't do that, right? And so he looking at me like, okay, y'all had my nails done, everything, fingers banded together, right? Dude was looking at me like, this girl crazy, right? My fingers bent together. I got fresh nails on, fresh hair. I'll be in tonight, right? Dude was looking at me like, okay, right? But he was pissed, right? He's shaking his head, but he pissed. He ain't know which way to feel. Like, is she fooling me, fucking with me right now? I'm like, I'm coming in tonight. I'm not sitting at home, right? And he like, well, maybe we can hold off on the paperwork and see if she come in or see if she on some bullshit, right? I'm like, no. I think he thought I was setting him up. Like, damn, is she part of the people, right? I'm like, dude, I don't know nothing about that shit. But he can see my level of genuinity and what is the word? Sincerity, right? He seen that I was sincere in what I was saying and that I meant what I was saying. And so he called them in to get their side. And when I went back to work that night, another supervisor, they had me with another supervisor, right? Y'all ain't thinking nothing to nothing. And he like, come on, Laria, you coming over here, I'm about to show you what to do, woo, right? My original station was over here. They put me over here. It was still a very matter of fact, that was 10 times more faster than that original job I came from. But, and a lot of people didn't even like to be over there because how fast it was. But, the part where I was at, the stuff was a little bit heavier, right? And so when it comes to like hand wise, lifting that and putting that type of pressure would have been more heavier on my hand than me moving fast with my 9 fingers, right? And so really 8 because they had to tape the 2 together, right? So this one didn't to support the other one. And so I went over there and I did the job so fast. And I know they was probably watching me on the cameras, but I didn't think about it then. But the dude said, I went in there and asked him, can you stay over here with us? He said, do you like it over here? I said, hell yeah, I'll stay over here all day, right? He said, I think we're going to keep you over here, right? And I came kind of find out that where I came from, people was really trying to transfer to over there. They didn't like over there because how fast it was, but I liked it because I like to stay busy, right? I don't like nothing slow. That I can't do it. I'm too hyper. And so I stayed over there once everything was everything. But like she kept sneaking over there to my part still being my where I was at, my station. She kept sneaking over there. And I didn't think nothing of it because she was weird already, right? And I just thought she was still being weird. But come to find out, she was already being weird, right? She was so damn stupid. Just stupid. Stupid. If I ain't never met stupid, right? This is when it comes in spiritual wise, right? When I look back over a lot of that type of stuff that I've been through inside of these type of places, sometimes God will use your light to draw out the dark, right? God will use your light in you to draw out those type of people, to get them out of positions and places like this, right? These type of people, I know I just seen somebody, but I heard somebody and I just looked up like, what the hell? But God will use you to draw these type of people out of these positions. It's a lot of people in positions that is abusing their authority in these positions. That's just that y'all can't even get out. That is just overall of abusing their positions, right? And I never did nothing to this woman. I didn't know her. She was just straight weird, right? And then I didn't know that the presence that I carried, I just knew that everywhere I went to, it was some type of issue like this, right? All the way up into the last place that I was at, it was some type of issue like this. And every single place I went to, it got worse and worse and worse. Like God prepared me to help me to notice it, right? But he didn't like all the way give me the full assignment of what he had me doing, right? I knew something was going on, but I didn't know what was going on, right? And I didn't know it had to do with spirituality. And so when you start off, right, a lot of this stuff come from your childhood, stem from your childhood when you come here with an assignment. And even as a child, you don't know sometimes that is, right? You don't know. Of course, you ain't gonna know you a kid. But when I look back, right, I'm at where I'm at today and I know what it was that God was doing. all the way up until this day, right? And further on in the thing, right? Even when me getting on here speaking, what I'm saying is going to be somebody in the background doing something. God will use your light to draw them out so he can tap and pap and whap their ass, right? People that's abusing their position, abusing their authorities, right? People who got millions of followers who coming all the way down here to you, little bitty old you that's just now starting off to pick, pry, and poke. And God would allow them to do that to draw them out for them to get slap handcuffs on and caught that nigga, right? Type stuff. I'm telling you, I have seen it all too many times. And so she came over there and she was still like the light in me, and I didn't know what it was, what was bothering her that bad. I didn't even know it was a level of bother. I just thought she was a weirdo, right? Every time I get on here and start speaking, here comes somebody. I done talked so much, I done wore my highlights off. Go to the beginning of me speaking all the way to now. I done wore my lip liner off. But anyways, look better like that anyways. But anyways, and that's why I put so much on too, because throughout the day, it just go. And I be throughout the day, the whole thing would disappear. By the time I get home, I'm like, where did my lip liner go, right? And so, she had came over there to me, right? And she kept doing this thing, hiding behind the bushes, hiding behind the post, right? Jumping out, gotcha. I don't know what this was in her, but it was like, it was slobbering, growling, but it's like, they couldn't even say it was from that, right? Because when I already started to think back on it, I'm like, when them two dudes went in there and told on her, I think that she thought it was me who said something, but I never said nothing, right? And I feel like those two dudes, yes, they did go in there and tell. See, God let you see it from all angles. When they did go in there and say what they said it not because they didn't want a brown nose, right? Let's catch it. Not because they knew that she would think it was me. That's why they was so happy to go and tell on her and everything that she was doing. But I don't care if they did use me, right? Because the level of stuff that she was doing. But so she really came out, right? I think they started to go back and look. God let that thing, she was evil eyeing, right? Look how it just bounced back all the way around. She was evil eyeing, as well as probably a whole bunch of other females in there, right? Including probably some men, who knows? She was evil eyeing. That thing fell on me, right? When it fell on me, God just allowed it to do just enough damage to make me go and do that, right? Because I'm a person, like I said, I can handle, y'all to have fishing hooks stuck in my kneecaps, motherfucking bee stung in my eye, right? I done been through some crazy stuff, right? All the way down to my childhood. And so my pain tolerance is high. People don't understand when you ask for discernment, when you ask for intuition, right? All of it in every sense and everything, right? That it comes with a cost. It comes with, like people say, oh, when you listen to these preachers, they'll say, oh, ask God to give you discernment so you can see that snake around you. Ask God for intuition, whoop, right? But you got to be careful what you ask for and make sure you're very specific in your prayer, because you will ask for discernment and you will run across a million snakes, and everybody you come across will snake you, right? And you'll be going through it your whole life and you don't know why, right? Yesterday I was on the phone with somebody, with an individual, and I caught it. I was talking to this person and we was talking about this. I said, yeah, because you will ask God for, I said, you got to be careful what you ask for, because you will ask God for intuition and discernment, and you will find yourself going through a whole bunch of tumultuous stuff. So, y'all, look. What part was I on? I was saying to this person on the phone yesterday, I said that you will ask for that intuition and that discernment, right? And you will meet many snakes on your path. And you like, God, why is that everybody I'm meeting crossing me, right? Why everybody I'm meeting doing this and doing that to me? But you forgot that you asked God 10 years ago for discernment. And 10 years later, your life is horrid, right? And you like, why is I meeting all these snakes? Why everybody I'm coming to looking at me sideways? I didn't do nothing to them, right? Why everybody I'm meeting is this way and that way? And yesterday I was talking to an individual about this, and I repeated this same thing to them that I'm saying to y'all. And I never forget, many years ago, I said, God, give me intuition and discernment, right? Just praying and just talking to God. I always talk to God. And in that instant, God has showed me why I had went through so many tumultuous situations, right? On top of 1,000 other things, right? Because you got generational curses, you got to break this, that, and the other, right? When they say that you chosen, a lot of people run their mouth, they not chosen, right? But I'm not getting on that today, Lord. But anyways, they don't tell you that you never ask God to stop the thing that you got it. You got that thing, right, that you asked God for. And so yesterday I was on the phone, I stopped and I said, oh my God, right? I said, hold on for a second. And I prayed while I was on the phone with this person. I said, Heavenly Father, oh my God, thank you so much. I said to this person, I said, many years ago, I asked God for intuition and discernment. And ever since, I have came across horrific people. And I finally said, while I was on the phone with this person, I said, God, I got it. I got it. I got the intuition. I got the discernment that you asked me for. Could you please lift that away from me now? Thank you so much. Right? Thank you so much for those lessons. I'm grateful. I don't care how horrific the scene was and the people was that I came across. I said, you still got to thank God for that lesson, because I know I asked for it. But they don't teach you this part of the game, right? I did ask for those things. And so he gave it to me. But it kept going on because I never said, God, I got the lesson now, God. Oh, God, I got the lesson. You hear me? I got the lesson. Lord, lift that away from me. I had to stop talking to this person yesterday while I was on the phone with them, and I prayed on that phone, and I said, God, I got it. I got it. I got it. Okay, I got it. Right? I'm a trained soldier in them areas, right? Lift it away. And everything else that I asked you for, I got it. Okay, I'm ready now, God. I'm good, right? But in that instant, I had never asked for it when I had met that lady, right? So God was already working on me in the area that I didn't even know what it was. And so she came from out the cuts and started fondling and messing with me and doing all kind of stuff. She over there messing with the dude. She trying to make my supervisor do things to me, right? And he just kept running away from her. He like, I'm not doing this, Becky. I'm not doing this. Get away, right? But she was over him. And so could you imagine how uncomfortable that is, right? The level of uncomfortability that he displayed, because God always gave me the eyes to see, right? I mean, not always, but it was always in there, right? Because it's things that I endured as a child as well that my family did, and, rituals and stuff like that, right? That I remember somebody in my family took me like 8 hours away from my hometown to have a ritual done on me. As a kid, I didn't know what it was until I got older, and God brought it back to me after my son passed away. This person had took me and dropped me off to somebody to get a ritual done on me. But when that person took me to get that ritual done on me, when I left out of there, God had opened up something else to me, right? God had opened up, when I left from out of there from getting that ritual done on me, and that's a whole nother story. I was only probably about 5 or 6 years old, I remember. And the lady on the way to taking me to get this done, right, because it was a storefront, and in the back of that store, it was a lady that looked like Miss Cleo. And the storefront looked irregular, but in the back, it was like the lady with the head wrap on. It was a witch, right? And they dropped me off. Two of my family members had dropped me off 8 hours away from my hometown to this woman, which was a part of this individual's family, and she walked me down to the store, and they took me in the back of the store. The lady did this ritual on me. But when I came from out of there from getting this ritual done on me, I remember the girl had bought me some ice cream, and I guess it was a test when I look back over it, to change my fate, to change my luck. And I remember she bought me this ice cream, right? On the way to the store, this lady was happy. Like, before we went to the store, and on the way to the store, this lady looked nice, right? She looked like she was in her mid-20s. She looked nice. She was like really nice and like all like peaches and cream and made with sugar and spice and everything nice. She was all, oh, would you like this? Like a witch. Would you like this? Come on in. You know how on the cartoons, the witches change their appearance, right? When they want to lure a kid in to eat them and to get their youth, right? They change their appearance to look like something real nice and have candy all outside the house. They glamour the house and they lure you in. And then after they lure you in, you be like, what the fuck is this? Right after you see them, you eat. They done ate half your body, and you done took a piece of that candy and the pie and ate it. You start seeing that on the table is really rats and roaches and creepy crawlers on the table. And then you see the house is all ate up and chewed up once you eat the fruit, right? That's literally what it was, right? That shit is real, y'all. I'm telling you. And so when we was on the way, the lady looked at all nice. She looked at normal, like a normal citizen, right? Normal, sweet lady. But once they did that ritual and she bought me some ice cream on the way out the store, I remember when I walked out the store, I had to be only like 5 or 6 years old. I remember that the ice cream had dropped on the ground, right? Now, mind you, this lady went from a sweet 26-year-old, this young walking down the street with a kid, right? Because we was in her house, and I remember she was laying around. She had the TV on, and I remember we had took a nap, right? I remember these things. And I remember when I woke up from the nap, like I was halfway up under her, right? Because I was little. So she had laid me next to her, little 5-year-old. She laid me next to her, and we both fell asleep. And when I woke up, I was halfway up under her. I was pulling my shirt because my shirt was stuck up under her. And she got up, and she was like, oh, we got to go down here to the store. You want to go to the store? You want some ice cream, right? And I said, yeah, you know, a kid. We went down there, and she was talking to me. She was nice. She was holding my hand, right? All the way down to the store. When we came from the back of that store, right, we went in the store. From the store looked normal, right? And I remember the store was on the right side of the street. As a kid, I remember this, right? We went to the store on the right side of the street, right? Her house was on the left side. And we had to cross the street. And I remember the store was on the right side. And we walked in the door. It was a regular store. And I remember walking into the store. And if you walk into keep going straight, not to the left or to the right. To the left was the counter where you pay for your stuff. To the right was the back of the store and everything. But when you go through the door, and you look to your left, it was the counter where you pay for your stuff. But when you kept straight, it was a door off to the left in the corner, right? And in that door to the left in the corner, and you walk back, right? It was a lady. And the lady had set me down in the chair, and she began the ritual. She did this ritual. And whatever she did, right? I can't remember what the full ritual was. I remember sitting in a wooden chair. And I remember that I came from the store. The lady bought me some ice cream. And when she bought me the ice cream, we walked out. She went from walking with me, hold my hand, to walking in front of me. And I remember when I dropped the ice cream, she turned around because she was way in front of me. As a little girl, she was way in front of me. She had turned it to something else. And I remember she turned around and looked at me when the ice cream fell, said, like that, and turned around and kept walking in front of me. And as a little kid, I'm walking in back of her trying to keep up at 6 years old. And when she turned around and looked at me, her face looked all twisted up. I was standing there terrified, right? Her face was twisted up. Her teeth was sharp. Her ears was pointy. And she looked like you ever seen a Little Red Riding Hood? When Little Red Riding Hood went out to the woods, right? And she went to that house and she said, my granny, what big eyes you have. What big teeth you have, right? That's what the fuck I was looking at, right? And her face had a slight twist to it, like she had a stroke in the spirit. But as a kid, I was terrified. I didn't know what I was looking at. But I remember she turned around and she said, right, bitch, your face. Y'all, it's crazy because I'm going to do this with this video acting up, y'all, because there's no reason. My phone is fully charged. There's no reason why my phone should be stalling, right? And so now all of a sudden it want to go back straight. That adversary don't want this message, honey. It do not want that message out, child. When I tell you. So anyways, when she did the turned around, right? She went from walking to with me, hold my hand, being nice, till we came out that store and she turned into a whole different character. Your luck has changed, bitch. And so that's what it was. And so as a kid, these motherfucking hoes was doing this to me. And the two individuals that took me there, what's crazy is that they were timid around me. Even as a kid, they were very timid. But once that thing happened to me, I seen them as well, right? Everybody was like seen. I could see everybody. So I don't know if they took me to that lady thinking that she had binded me, and she might have had binded me in a certain area, right? Binded my light, whatever it was that she was doing. It wasn't normal. And so I don't know if she purposely gave me that gift. Like, it ain't right what I'm doing, but I'm going to bless you with this, right? Oh, I got chills. I think that that's what she did. I'm almost 100% sure that's what she did. I don't think that the lady was a mean person. I don't think that it was like, witch, right? I don't think it was like that. I think that they originally took me there to bind the light, right? Whatever it was that they seen that they was terrified of. And after she did that, she blessed me with the ability to be able to see. I do believe that, right? Because I was able to see everybody, right? When I got back in the car with my two siblings that went down there with me. Mind you, the two siblings that went down there with me, they didn't drop them off. They kept them. They only had dropped me off to this lady. And I believe that it was one of my family members, one of his nieces or cousins or something like that, right? Little cousins or something like that. And anyways, y'all, when I got back to go back home, right, I seen her, and I didn't care to see her. I didn't care about her because I didn't know her, right? Once I seen her, and I sat in that house quiet, right? And she didn't talk to me. I didn't talk to her, right? She didn't. When I first got there, she was talking to me nice, but when she did that, I sit on the other side of the room from her. And I remember looking at her, and her face looked twisted up, and I was scared. And I'm like, oh my God, I hope they hear and come get me, right? But once they came, right, I seen them, and I was still scared, right? And so I'm looking at them, and I believe that they try to invoke the level of fear over me too. I looked at them, and they were so y'all, the level of fear that they try to invoke over me, right? And the behavior that changed in them after this happened. So once we went back home, right, they stayed down there for a little bit longer. But I just remember that I really didn't say too much while I was down there. I'm pretty sure that if one of my one sibling was older than me, so I'm almost 100% sure he's seen the change and the difference in me. I'm almost 100% sure that he's seen the change and the difference within me, right? I also believe that throughout my life, right, because I have 5 siblings, 3 of us was raised with my grandfather and my granddad on my dad's side, and the other 2 went over to my mom's side, right? One was raised with my granny on my mom's side, which was my mom, and then another one was raised with my auntie, which was my grandmother's sister, right? We was all spread it out, right? And me and my brother, we had went to foster care, and my little sister, they had automatically took her out of the hospital. And so me and my brother went to foster care and all this stuff until they eventually, my brother had ran away with me and him, and they had eventually came and picked us up because the level of not taking care of us that the lady had did, right? The way they was treating us. And so they came back and got us, and they reached out to these 2 individuals, my granny and my granddad on my dad's side. They reached out to them and asked them would they take us, and they only said that they was going to take me, right? But they said that I wouldn't go without my brother, and so they eventually, the lady told them, well, we're not going to separate them, basically. And so you got to take both of them or not at all, right? And so they ended coming to agreement that they would take both of us. But, right, and they say that they my family and all this stuff. I don't believe that these people are my family, right? And so the way they did me and my brother was so horrific, right? And I'm not going to go too deep off into that. But once they had came from down there, right, I had a level of fear over me. And I didn't know that this had happened, right? Because they did something to make me forget, right? And so once I got older and I went through the level of trauma 4 years ago when my son passed away from SIDS, which is sudden infant death syndrome. I woke up to my son laying next to me, gone to be with God. And so he came here just for a little while, right? And God had exposed everything to me. And he's still exposing things to me. But why everything had to happen the way it had to happen, right? And people go through things in their life and they sitting there crying and saying, why me, right? And I remember I was on the phone with an individual and I said, I don't have remorse for people because some people are addicted to the poor me, the why me, right? And so as life is neglect, right? Look at how my phone is acting. I'm not starting over. I'm not none of that because I want y'all to see what I got to endure when I'm doing this, right? The delay, all this stuff. And so God, because at first I was going to wait, try to correct it and all this. And God said, no, let them see. And so that let you know how higher entities are involved, right? I'm skipping all over the place. I'm going to go back to the workplace really quick, right? God was using me. God have always used me in these places, right? To get rid of, God, what I be looking at be crazy, man. But I don't believe in just taking the phone and invade people's privacy and space. And so I will not flip this camera around. So, oh, damn. And so, I probably went in the store a long time ago. The lady ended up getting rid of, they ended up letting her go. They went back over the cameras and let her go, right? She was still on her rampage. But anyways, I'm coming back up to what I'm saying now. When we was, so Me and my brother, we went to foster home. They got us, right? In that time frame, they took me there. I don't know if one of the individuals who had me was scared of my light being targeted, right? I don't all the way believe that they like meant ill when they took me to do that. I do believe that like they seen the light and they knew what type of gifts I held, right? Because it's passed down. And this person was a seer as well. And so I do believe that it was for a level of protection. Because like certain entity bodies started coming after me when I was little. They was down in the school, having me in the school, right? I remember they was taking me down up under to these different classrooms. Nobody else is in the school, right? They do some heinous things in these schools. They are cover-ups. The same school I went to, after school, they would have me down, and they would in this school, and they would call it different programs. But I know that it was only a select kid, right? They said it was the Bear Cubs, right? The one program I was in. But I started to notice more and more and more that it was not that many kids in this program. And I said something, even as a kid, I knew someone right with it, right? And they would be doing this level of testing on us. Then I remember another time, I don't know if I'm the only one who passed this test, but another time they came and got me and they took me back down to the school, and it was me and this lady, and it's almost like she really didn't pay me any mind, and she had her back turned like she was a scientist and she was doing this study, and she had me in a room and she would hand me a Rubik's Cube and say, solve this, right? I remember as a kid, though, I solved the Rubik's Cube, right? Within like the second or third try. And she would turn around with the recorder and start recording and say, whoop, 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 whoop. And the lady would turn around. Look at this. The lady would turn around and she had on earbuds, and she would take her recorder and say all these recordings. I thought I was down there for like teaching me and all this stuff, right? Maybe I was delayed in some area. Maybe she was, they would call it tutoring and all this stuff. That lady was not tutoring me, y'all. That lady was not tutoring me. When I look back over there, there was no tutoring, right? And she would pull something up on the computer and say, do you know what this is? Can you show me this? Can you show me that, right? It was more of an IQ thing than it was like math, science, social studies, any of that. It was like an IQ test type of thing, right? And she would sit there and watch. She never really said nothing to me. And she would look over and she would turn around and talk about her case study, right? Whatever it was, it scared my grandmother. And that's when she took me to go bind me, right? And so I do believe, because I look back over it, right? And God gave me understanding, right? I'm a seer. I could see all kind of stuff, right? And so I don't want to go too deep off into it. But later on, after my grandmother passed, she came back to me in a dream state and told me what she did. And so that it wasn't hate, right? Because you can, as a kid, you can interpret that as hate, right? And I'm like, what was they on type of thing, right? And it would make you grow bitter. But thank God that I had that level of clarity. I was able to get that level of clarity, right? And she was showing me like, no, I didn't hate you. I was protecting you, right? And so that's when first God gave me what I endured as a kid, because you got to understand a lot of this stuff I had forgot, right? But once the trauma of my son, it brought a lot of that stuff back up. And so I remember I was sitting on the couch and a lot of this stuff, I'm like, oh my God, right? They did that, right? They did that. What the fuck? You ever had something come back to you and you like, what the hell, right? Stuff that you completely forgot about. And so I started to notice, right? Because I thought it was things that were just coming up from childhood. That was normal, right? Like just normal things coming back up. And God had showed me it was never normal, right? And he gave it to me in steps, right? And so later on, that's when I got the confirmation from the other side that it wasn't done purposely. It wasn't done purposely. When you got different entities and government bodies, they can tell you they tutoring your kid all day. But she was a seer herself, and she was getting herself, and she knew that something wasn't right with that, right? And one thing about her is she always did her back checking, right? I remember as a kid, we used to go over here and we say, Granny, we going down to the pool, right? And she'd be like, right? And she would go do all her stuff. She was involved in the church and all that stuff. And somehow she would always come around. Every time we was doing something we had no business doing, right? Going to stop and get a friend. Girl, come on. I remember one time we was all leaning down on the porch high and like, here she coming, that ugly ass probe. Y'all ain't. And my grandmother, I remember we used to be in the car, right? And we see my granny coming in that ugly ass probe, and we all be leaned down trying to, cause we was always supposed to go straight to the pool and back home, not go stop and get your friends and da 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 da, right? Back then they was on it, and so I don't know if my granny had a friend around there telling what or whatever, but she'll pull it right up on us, and we be all on the porch hiding and stuff, and she be squinting, looking like, "Where's they at? I know y'all over here somewhere," right? But, you know, doing what she supposed to did as a parent that was watching kids, as a guardian. And so, she knew that something wasn't right, basically what I'm saying, and what they was doing, right? I don't know what they told her they was doing, but she knew someone right, and she must have creeped around and seen what nobody else out there, right? Creeped around where the school was, and like, y'all telling me that y'all doing this and doing that with her. God was speaking to her saying that's not what they was doing. And after that, she said, okay, y'all won't be taking this light of mine, right? And hell no, we ain't letting shit shine, bitch. Come on, we gotta. And she went and got my granddad and said they doing this and that to her, right? They doing case studies on her sneakingly, right? We gotta go bind this. And I do believe that's what happened. And so after that, they came. I tell y'all that every single time that I start to record, it's people reaching out to me that I don't even talk to, y'all. It's been people reaching out to me here lately, right? My grandfather passed away, and I'm not going to go too deep off into that, but you know how that go. When somebody passed away in the family, and they think that something's left to you, or they know, and you the only one that don't know, here they come, they send this person in, that person in, everybody on a clock, right? Everybody on payroll. And so, I mean, it's all type of people reaching out to me, right? And it'd be like the audacity, because when my son passed away, y'all, that's another story. Nobody can't reach out to me. My uncle passed away. He stayed with me for 2 years. Nobody can't reach out to me. They all got real greedy, high for the 5, low for the 4, and they trench coach. And so that's a whole nother story. I ain't gonna get on that today. But anyways, y'all, when God got a job for you to do, right, it would be hidden in plain sight. A lot of times, people are not supposed to be around you when God is getting ready to bless you, right? And that's crazy that this person called in right at cue. God telling me to end this. And I got to go inside this store real quick. When God got something for you, right, there's nothing nobody can do. Especially when you good-hearted, you are overgiver and all those things. Them are things that need to be worked on within self, right? And God ain't going to hand you a big nothing for you to divvy it on out to people who have did things to you behind your back, right? When I go back over my life and I look and see what was going on, and I notice how many people was involved and how many people that was blood that was involved in this thing, it fucked me up, right? That'll make anybody have PTSD and everything else, right? You got ex-lovers, right? People knowing. At my son's funeral, God showed me something that day, that it was everybody involved with everybody, but nobody supposed to have knew nobody, right? Because you got this side of the family at a funeral, that side is that, right? And nobody who knew nobody, everybody seemed like they was connected to everybody, right? And at that time, I was around this older lady, and she had said something to me at the repast, and she said, do they know each other, right? And I said, not that I know of. And she was like, it's smelling fishy in this motherfucker, right? She was always like that, OG. And I was like, girl, look, I don't even feel like getting on it, right? But afterwards, we later talked about it, and we was talking, and she eventually got paid to go along too, right? Everybody weak, everybody about finances, right? But in that time frame, God has showed me so much, because it's always going to get real horrific before the light comes, right? God is not going to allow you to share your blessings, especially when you are overgiver, especially when you get a shot off your back, especially when you get your last, right? And there's people out here, your family, your friends, who will call you and ask you for stuff, but you can't never call them asking for nothing, right? But not only that, they'll call you knowing that you're going to give your last. You give your last, and they put it with they stash of cash, right? You got to be careful of those people, because they always act like they down, right? But I tell y'all that every single time that I start to record, it's people reaching out to me that I don't even talk to, y'all. It's been people reaching out to me here lately, right? My grandfather passed away, and I'm not going to go too deep off into that, but you know how that go. When somebody passed away in the family, and they think that something's left to you, or they know, and you the only one that don't know, here they come, they send this person in, that person in, everybody on a clock, right? Everybody on payroll. And so, I mean, it's all type of people reaching out to me, right? And it'd be like the audacity, because when my son passed away, that's another story. Nobody can't reach out to me. My uncle passed away. He stayed with me for 2 years. Nobody can't reach out to me. They all got real greedy. High for the 5, low for the 4 in their trench coats. And so that's a whole nother story. I ain't gonna get on that today. But anyways, y'all, when God got a job for you to do, right, it would be hidden in plain sight. A lot of times, people are not supposed to be around you when God is getting ready to bless you, right? And that's crazy that this person called in right at cue. God telling me to end this. And I got to go inside this store real quick. And when God got something for you, right, there's nothing nobody can do. Especially when you good-hearted, you are overgiver and all those things. Them are things that need to be worked on within self, right? And God ain't going to hand you a big nothing for you to divvy it on out to people who have did things to you behind your back, right? When I go back over my life and I look and see what was going on, and I notice how many people was involved and how many people that was blood that was involved in this thing, it fucked me up, right? That'll make anybody have PTSD and everything else, right? You got ex-lovers, right? People knowing. At my son's funeral, God showed me something that day, that it was everybody involved with everybody, but nobody supposed to have knew nobody, right? Because you got this side of the family at a funeral, that side is that, right? And nobody who knew nobody, everybody seemed like they was connected to everybody, right? And at that time, I was around this older lady, and she had said something to me at the repast, and she said, do they know each other, right? And I said, not that I know of. And she was like, it's smelling fishy in this motherfucker, right? She was always like that, OG. And I was like, girl, look, I don't even feel like getting on it, right? But afterwards, we later talked about it, and we was talking, and she eventually got paid to go along too, right? Everybody weak. Everybody about finances, right? But in that time frame, God has showed me so much, because it's always going to get real horrific before the light comes, right? God is not going to allow you to share your blessings, especially when you are overgiver, especially when you get a shot off your back, especially when you get your last, right? And there's people out here, your family, your friends, who will call you and ask you for stuff, but you can't never call them asking for nothing, right? But not only that, they'll call you knowing that you're going to give your last. You give your last, and they put it with they stash of cash, right? You got to be careful of those people, because they always act like they down, right? But the devil do not want this message out, because at the end of it, which is the best part, here come the bull crap. It ain't saving, it's skipping, it's doing all this stuff, but it's all right, God. It's all right. But what I'm saying to y'all, I'm going to say this, and I got to go. For the level of stuff that these people was involved in against a lot of us, right, that we couldn't see, the things that God allowed you to endure and go through over the years, right? A lot of these people couldn't beat you, so now they in the midst of trying to join you, right? And some of them, they couldn't join you, so they try to destroy you, and then they try to come back around the bend again, right, to try to join you again. And God not having it. And so it's very vital in this season that y'all pay attention to who y'all had to forcefully release. And a lot of these people forced you to release them. Their behavior in them was so horrific and so bad that they forced you to release them, right? And once you finally said, okay, you want me to release you that bad, right? I'm going to release you. And then some of y'all had to go back and forth about this for years. They literally put you in a situation to force you to have to release them. That's how bad that they mask had slipped. That's how bad their behavior was. And that's how bad the deeds that they have done behind your back, right? And once they couldn't beat you and do none of that, they try to go out here. You have friends around you, family members around you. They out here trying to steal your life story. They trying to write books. They trying to do this. They lying about their kids. They lying about that, right? They was around you taking bits and pieces of you, and everybody trying to go be you better than you before you even got out there. And then they try to destroy you, your character, and everything else about you before you even had a chance to tell your story, while God was sitting up there, while you was licking your wounds, and God was helping you lick the wounds, right, and healing you, and the angels bathing you and showering you in glory, right? Because God, once you go through it and you get all beat up, ain't nothing like God's grace and mercy. You up there licking your wounds, God like, lick her back. Right? They whapped her in the back. She still got a knife in it, right? Once God forced you once they force you to lead them, right? And I always said, God, why would you let that in my back door, right? And God gave me the story of Job, right? And I said, well, God, don't take my health, because I've been through everything but that, right? But I had some scares, and God said, you did enough, right? God out there, y'all, they shouting in the spirit for us. They had praise for us, even God, right? God had loved them so much. God had loved these people so much and wanted them to get on they path so much that he knew that you were strong enough to be used as a buffer for these people. right? God loved them so much that he let it in. You got to understand in the story of Job, the biggest thing that stuck out to me was God not going to let it in if, right, no, let me go back. That in order for it to come in, that God had to lift up the hedge of protection for it to slide in your back door, right? And so I said, God, well, why would you allow that? Right? Why couldn't you detour them? You got the power to do it because God loved them too. God wanted them to get the assignment too, right? And even though they was doing what they was doing, God seen that you was strong enough to handle it to make. God really found these people. My video is skipping so bad. God really seen that these people was really worth saving. So he tried to lift them up inside, right? So they can be, y'all know it. So he can tell everyone they know. He wanted them to tell everybody, right? You were supposed to be the buffer for them to go and worship God. You were supposed to be the buffer for them to change their ways. If they couldn't beat you, and these people did some things that you should not be here, y'all. God would never let you know some of the things that these people have done behind your back. You are not supposed to. It was a sniper, and you don't even know that you heard a bullet outside rolling. You're like, what's that? It was supposed to hit your ass. You don't even know the buffer. God used you because he thought these people was worth saving. He loved them that much that he wanted to save these people. Somewhere in there, they were supposed to turn it around. God's going to work in your favor. They were supposed to really turn around. And God let these people do this stuff for years. Part of it, on the first of the journey, God didn't even let you know what was going on. But once God had alerted you, tapped you on the shoulder and say, hey, look up. They was at halftime, baby. I promise. They was at halftime. And so they went hard in the paint. And they should have said, they were supposed to turn them around. You were supposed to turn these people around. They were supposed to say, damn, well, what's going on here? Why I can't beat her? So they came in the door and came back and tried to snake you again. God like, ooh, that ass whooping about to be for real. Right? I'm dead serious. I told him don't do it. And now you in the house and God secluding you. And be careful about the spouse. Because when they start coming in, they start soliciting them. Y'all laying next to husbands, wives, boyfriend, girlfriend, kids. And they part of the reason why your life's still up in shambles. Release. Right? Some of y'all in situations where y'all cannot release right now. But God is going to put you on a situation. But I'm telling y'all, some of us have learned so much that the blessing is on its way. And you want to leave that thing behind that you laying next to you. Right? Some of these people are still connected to you because of your kids. Because of your kids, it's allowing it. Coming back, telling them what you got going on and doing. Right? No. And I can sing out, where's the leakage? There's a leak. God told me there was a leak, right? There was a leak. And I said, well, God, where the leak at? God, I'm in the house looking for the leak. Literally, God had told me that there was a leak. Because God talked to you on signs, synchronicities, numbers, angels, doves, birds, and songs. And so the song came on, there's a leak in this here building, right? And I walking through the house talking about where the leak at, Lord, in the physical. The leak is the person that is stealing your life, taking back to the enemy what you got going on. So they're an enemy too, kid or not. I don't give a fuck if you fight. Bop, get away from me. I kick you in your forehead. Go on over there with them. Because I done been through too much. God really found these people. My video is skipping so bad. God really seen that these people was really worth saving. So he tried to lift them up inside. Right? So they can be. Y'all know it. So he can tell everyone they know. He wanted them to tell everybody, right? You were supposed to be the buffer for them to go and worship God. You were supposed to be the buffer for them to change their ways. If they couldn't beat you, and these people did some things that you should not be here, y'all. God would never let you know some of the things that these people have done behind your back. You are not supposed to. It was a sniper, and you don't even know that you heard a bullet outside rolling. You're like, what's that? It was supposed to hit your ass. You don't even know the buffer. God used you because he thought these people was worth saving. He loved them that much that he wanted to save these people. Somewhere in there, they were supposed to turn it around. God's going to work in your favor. They were supposed to really turn around. And God let these people do this stuff for years. Part of it, on the first of the journey, God didn't even let you know what was going on. But once God had alerted you, tapped you on the shoulder and say, hey, look up. They was at halftime, baby. I promise. They was at halftime. And so they went hard in the paint. And they should have said, they were supposed to turn them around. You were supposed to turn these people around. They were supposed to say, damn, well, what's going on here? Why I can't beat her? So they came in the door and came back and tried to snake you again. God like, ooh, that ass whooping about to be for real. Right? I'm dead serious. I told him don't do it. And now you in the house and God secluding you. And be careful about the spouse. Because when they start coming in, they start soliciting them. Y'all laying next to husbands, wives, boyfriend, girlfriend, kids. And they part of the reason why your life's still up in shambles. Release. Right? Some of y'all in situations where y'all cannot release right now. But God is going to put you in a situation. But I'm telling y'all, some of us have learned so much that the blessing is on its way. And you want to leave that thing behind that you laying next to you. Right? Some of these people are still connected to you because of your kids. Because of your kids is allowing it. Coming back, telling them what you got going on and doing. Right? No. And I can sing out, where's the leakage? There's a leak. God told me there was a leak, right? There was a leak. And I said, well, God, where the leak at? Y'all, I'm in the house looking for the leak. Literally, God had told me that there was a leak. Because God talked to you in signs, synchronicities, numbers, angels, doves, birds, and songs. And so the song came on, there's a leak in this here building, right? And I'm walking through the house talking about where the leak at, Lord, in the physical. The leak is the person that is stealing your life, taking back to the enemy what you got going on. So they're an enemy too, kid or not. I don't give a fuck if you fight. Bop, get away from me. I kick you on your forehead. Go on over there with them. Because I done been through too much. So, yes, y'all, I had to go out there and get my stuff. The store's about to close. And the lady see me at the store so much. She was out there like, is you coming or is you staying or what you doing? I'm like, I'm coming, hold on. And so I had to go in and get my stuff and come on back out. And thank God I only had a couple minutes in there because, honey, I would have been in there just scrolling on through, right? Started in the lighting and now it's dark. And so a lot of these people have done a lot of things, right? God has warned, sent out signs, shot fires shot. Man down, brum, bum, bum, brum, bum, bum, brum, bum, bum. Man down, mama. What? God done a man down. What? That's that Rihanna. I love me some Rihanna, y'all. Some Rihanna, some Doja Cat, some Summer Walker. Y'all, I love them, right? A lot of these people were supposed to turn around and stop, right? It's so bad, right? On the journey.